Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Host, welcome back to the Baseball Head 3, and hopefully you like this video. And hit that subscribe button so as you know, ESPN's doing some job. Let me tell you how good of a job they're doing. They're taking one of the most iconic things they have on their network, getting rid of it, and they're going to put in, well, let's get into this. And this is a two-part video, two different articles to discuss here. And what's funny about this is that, like I said, they ain't learning from mistakes. Some bad media. ESPN to replace Sunday Night Baseball with Women's Sports Sundays. What? Let me read this again. ESPN to replace Sunday Night Baseball with Women's Sports Sundays. ESPN announced it will feature top-tier WNBA and NWSL games in the window. Oh, really? This sounds like a great idea. With ESPN losing its Sunday Night Baseball package, it has announced it will debut a new primetime franchise labeled as Women's Sports Sundays. ESPN, it will feature top-tier WNBA and NWSL games in the window. Where women's sports are experiencing continued momentum, and Women's Sports Sundays is ESPN's next step in meeting that demand, said ESPN Executive Vice President of Programming and Acquisitions Rosalind Durant. Oh, really? This franchise is about more than showcasing games. It's about building a consistent, high-profile destination that reflects the passion, excellence, and cultural impact of women's sports today while giving athletes and leagues the stage they deserve. Nobody's going to watch. Across 9 consecutive weeks and 12 different games, ESPN will deliver women's sports matchups, providing what is labeled as the biggest moments, rivalries, and stars across women's sports and ESPN networks and premium windows. I think you have Caitlin Clark on it every week, because that's the only woman that anyone's really interested in that plays in professional sports for women. And I would mention, if the NBA wasn't subsidizing everything that's going on with the WNBA, they would be going out of business. Let's be honest. Now, WFAN icon, emphasis on the con, Craig Carton had something to say. Interesting to say. Headline from Barra Media. Craig Carton, ESPN died with Women's Sports Sunday, replacing Sunday Night Baseball. Well, I wouldn't say I watched this on Thursday, what his take was. Are we going to have a bunch of non-binary transgender athletes commentating on athletics? I don't know what it means. Oh boy, that would be great. Have guys dressed up like Jim Carrey. Remember Jim Carrey had that character, Vera Del Milo, and everybody knew he was a guy, and he was pretending not to be. But he thought he was. He thought he was a woman. Craig Carton did not mince words when reacting to ESPN's plan to launch Women's Sports Sunday this summer, delivering a blistering critique during Thursday's edition of the Craig Carton Show on Sports Grid, in which he questioned both the strategy and long-term direction of the self-proclaimed worldwide leader. Carton opened with a dramatic flourish, declaring that ESPN just died and arguing that the network's decision to replace a 35-year Sunday baseball programming tradition with a themed women's sports block signaled the end of an era. It's going to be error. The beginning of an error. EEROR. Quote, "There's not a knock on the fabulously talented women that play professional sports. They are very good at what they do when compared to other women. The reality is that there's never been a television audience for it until Caitlin Clark started playing basketball in the WNBA." That's true. He acknowledged that the WNBA capitalized on Caitlin Clark's popularity with record attendance and ratings. However, he questioned whether that surge can sustain a full summer programming strategy. He specifically wondered about consistency without Clark in marquee matchups. Now, I would mention, if the women in the WNBA do not leave Caitlin alone, they're not going to be making any money. Nobody's going to be watching. So the fact that they are so abuse that poor girl. I'm talking about the players, the players that she goes up against. The fact that they are abusive to her and say terrible things about her, physically injure her, physically hurt her. This will not help their sport. And they have to stop being catty and get over it. Carton also questioned what he described as a lack of clarity around the concept. He wondered what Women's Sports Sundays would include beyond live games. Speculated about possible studio shows and on-air talent pairings. Carton suggested that vague messaging from ESPN invited skepticism. He questioned how the block would be executed and who would lead the conversation each week. You're going to get a 9-week run all summer long, by the way. What does that mean? Bespoke studio program. What does that mean? Are we going to have a bunch of non-binary transgender athletes commenting on athletics? I don't know what it means. And perhaps his most pointed comment, Carton argued that if Clark is not featured prominently in every Sunday night showcase, ESPN risks undermining the very ratings lift it appears to be chasing. Exactly. If Caitlin Clark is not playing in every single Sunday night game on ESPN, then you're dumber than you act. I agree. Carton went further and proposed a different strategy, suggested leaning into reality-style competition programming featuring prominent female Olympians. First thing I would do is take the 10 hottest female Olympic athletes and have them do stuff like a Survivor. I would bring back Battle of the Network Stars. I'd put that on. That would be cool. I don't think that's a bad thing. ESPN has positioned Women's Sports Sundays as an extension of its expanding commitment to women's leagues and championships, particularly as advertisers and younger demographics increasingly embrace those properties. Of course, 9 consecutive weeks and 12 different games, ESPN will deliver women's sports matchups, providing that what is labeled as the biggest moments. There's only one rivalry. There's only one person that matters in female sports, in women's sports. And that's Caitlin Clark. If you don't have her on, you're not going to have any kind of success. It's simple. It's nothing more complicated than that. And like I said in other videos, she's America's sweetheart. You can't ignore her. Okay? The audience loves her, and they've loved her since college. She's got a charisma that none of the other the other women players have. They have it. They don't have it. Okay? Angel Reese, whatever her name is, she doesn't have it. She's a drip, you know. And I would say this about the ladies: leave her alone, let her play. You'll make more money, and enough of and also put the politics aside. We don't care what the NBA pays you. Okay, that's your problem if you can't get the money that you want, and you're not equal to any of the players in the NBA. I hate to point this out. We know that there've been junior high school teams that can beat women's a women's team. I was watching on SNY a couple weeks ago. Stony Brook team, and they were a women's Stony Brook team playing basketball, and they were terrible. They were missing shots, they weren't scoring any points. It was just terrible basketball, and we know that's a big problem in the WNBA. But Caitlin Clark, she takes her shots and makes her shots in comparison to them. Also, say that there was a video that went out, I guess on YouTube with Caitlin and Eli Manning, legendary Giants quarterback. Now, Eli was a top-notch athlete. This is a guy that played every game as a quarterback. He didn't miss any games. I don't know what kind of athlete he was in high school. I don't know if he played other sports, but they were just doing layups in like it was like an arcade or something. And he just took shot after shot after shot, and he just beat her like it was nothing. You know. And the men dominate these spaces. And these different companies like ESPN don't understand that, because they have all these women that are, that want to be destructive. They want to destroy men's spaces. Okay? And when it comes to sports, it's always going to be dominated by men. And you see the pussification of a lot of the sports. We've seen a little bit of it with the NFL. Okay? Certainly seen it with the NBA. With the whole thing with LeBron James and his pussification that he's put into what's going on there. But these women that are in these networks, in these different companies, it's destructive to men's spaces. I would say this, if ESPN went out of business because of this Women's Sports Sunday, these women aren't going to care. They're going to be like, they love it, because they have a higher cause than that. And that's destroyed men's spaces. And that's how it is. So, you let me know what you think about this video. And of course, also again, Caitlin Clark is America's sweetheart. And you put her on, and that's it. Simple as that. Simple every week. Or even have a reality show with her on it. Especially if you're not having this stuff during the summer. Have a reality show around her. See what she does during the week before a game. That would be good. A lot of people would watch that, believe me. A reality show with her in it. And her fight with this player and fight with that player, Well, thank you for watching this video. And of course, please subscribe to Baseball Head 3. I'll see you later.